Hi, everybody. Welcome to Inside the Practice. This is Alan Hollander, CEO of ePractice Manager, and my wonderful cohort, Sarah Boylan.
Hi, Alan. It's good to see you.
Yes, great to see you. Today's going to be interesting, Sarah, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our discussion for sure.
Yeah. We are the guests today. Wait, don't hang up. We're the guests today, and we now that we've gone through about 15 episodes, it's been interesting to look back at our guests and all of the fascinating and interesting tidbits and data that they have provided over these months. We thought it would be a great idea to do a recap of some of these things for you, the listeners, to ruminate on and think about, and perhaps remind you of these points and how you can implement them, because they are very effective when implemented. And, you know, we find that studies have been done on relaying information and data retention going back a long time ago on a study that was done in the early 1900s on why people don't retain information or how they can retain information. And it has to do with the number of touches that they have with the information. So as annoying as reminders might be for people, they are actually very helpful in terms of retaining information. So we're gonna do this and hopefully share with you some really valuable things. Sarah, as we reflect on these, I've gotten so much enjoyment out of discussing these things that I've been doing for decades. What are your thoughts about this?
Oh my gosh. Well, we have so many topics that we've discussed already. Everything from practice management to some clinical techniques, leadership, risk management, financial strategies, the best practices for patient care, managing your team. I mean, we've had some really great guests, and just diving straight into it. Let's bring up communication and relationship building. We had the honor of having Mr. Christopher Verbeest, who was the former vice president of TDIC, and he was able to share with us some great takeaways about managing risk in your dental practice by doing some just very basic things such as defensive charting. One thing that I loved about the first class I took with him is he said to me in the class, if it's not in the chart, it did not happen. And so really driving home the point to our listeners about how important it is that if, you can put your SOAP documentation down, but you really need to put in any other things that were unique to each case to make sure that you are, charting defensively. So I thought that was a really good takeaway to make sure that you mitigate risk with your patients.
Yes, I'm with you completely. I could not agree more.
Yeah. And then, there was also, HR points that he provided too for us as far as making sure that your employees' documentation is all completely up to date and everything is documented. And then also he talked about bringing in witnesses when appropriate to have those difficult conversations if that happens too. So
yes,
but yeah, that was one of many great episodes we had, huh?
Yeah, Chris was very good. As business owners, we don't want to be walking around looking over our shoulders and operating defensively. It's much more effective. Vince Lombardi, the great football coach, was not the only person who said that the best, he is the person who said the best defense is a strong offense.
Yeah, heard that quote.
Yeah, but there are many individuals who discuss how taking the initiative, being proactive is so very important. What I found really interesting was a quote that Chris had, or a quote from the podcast with Chris, where he said the biggest problem with patient communication is the misconception that it took place.
Yes.
And wow, that's poignant. It really is, because, and I look at this certainly in terms of risk management for a patient. Notes being complete is vitally important. And technology is such now where you can record, you can have a device. There are some wonderful software applications out there where you can record. In fact, an AI device will listen to your consultation, do your notes for you, put in the appropriate codes and so forth. You do have to prompt it accordingly, but the use of technology for really managing risk is incredible now. But here's where I think about it, Sarah. For years, many years, decades, we've been at this a long time, we have told doctors almost the same thing. If you don't have it written down, it never happened. It's not true. There's no way, because it becomes a he said, she said situation. Right. And where do you go with that? Nowhere. You get a standoff happening. And so we have always stressed that this is why your job descriptions and your procedures must include all the duties, all the protocols, all of the expectations for practice. Now, not surprisingly, this is not something doctors wish to do. There are templates out there that you can use, but even then, they're quite it's a laborious, it's a very time-consuming task. Fortunately, our firm has all of these done, and they're much easier to edit. But I think more to the point, if you can't, how do you hold a person accountable for anything? If you don't have a written document that lays out that for which they're supposed to be accountable.
Right.
So,
and not just that on the HR side, but informed consent, right? These patients, that is the number one communication tool about the procedure that they're going to have done, whether it's an extraction or a root canal or whatever it is.
Yes.
Every single procedure should have that informed consent signed and dated and truthfully signed by the doctor too, for sure. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, there are so many ways to do this. I think most practices are pretty good on getting these documents signed. It would be extreme negligence, wouldn't you say, if those informed consent docs were not getting done or signed off?
Well, I think the insurance company would agree with that for sure.
I think here's where I believe that it's a much bigger issue in HR, especially in the kind of market that we're in large corporations where you have systems in place and you have highly experienced, specialized HR managers who have studied and understand risk. They have these things in place. They have these protocols in place. But let's face it, the average dentist, even it could be a larger practice.
Yeah.
That takes many millions of dollars a year. Still, they often do not have these fundamental things in place. that are managed properly, where staff signs off on everything, where they're
Yeah.
utilized with staff. I mean, if, the other thing too, and I'll talk about this when we come to the leadership thing, is, being a leader means people recognize that they will be held accountable by you.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do that again if you don't have documentation. So yeah, this is all communication, and the biggest problem, as Christopher B. said, with patient communication is the misconception that it took place. Sarah, how many times has somebody said to you, "Oh, is that what you said? Did you say that?"
Well, I always had it in writing.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
But just in life, in personal situations, is that what I said? Oh, did you say that?
Yes, for sure, all the time. Well, I think ultimately, if our listeners need access to any of these resources, just give us a call. We'd be happy to have a conversation about communication and that subject. But I would love to switch gears a little bit and go into practice operations and financial management.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We had a terrific guest on when we had Morgan Heyman. Morgan is a CPA, and he is the managing director of one of the largest, if not the largest, dental accounting firm out there. Eisner Amper is the name of the company. I think he said they have 900 plus clients, and he was incredibly knowledgeable when it came to the importance of the simple fundamentals of accounting and managing a practice's finances. I thought he was an incredible, a wonderful guest. And his quote, the takeaway on his quote was, "The business of dentistry is different than clinical practice." Oh my gosh, where have we heard that before?
Oh, just a couple of times.
Well, we kid about that because our tagline, I wouldn't say it's a tagline, the philosophy of our firm, I think it should be the philosophy of any practice management firm, is that a practice doesn't grow necessarily because of the clinical skills and tools in the practice. It grows because of the business skills and the business systems that are properly implemented by the staff.
Yeah.
You can have, I mean, you want to talk about financial tools. My gosh, Sarah, the number of doctors, and you know how many doctors we meet with and have met with over the years, and you ask for, well, give me a ballpark on what your collections are. Give me what's your profitability? And they don't know. They don't know their bottom line. They don't know what it costs in a given day to run their practice.
They don't have a budget in place.
No budget. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And again, you have, how do you set a goal? I mean, there are all kinds of goals, not just financial, but how do you set a goal if you don't know and you're not watching simple financial metrics, which aren't really the driving force in a practice? I want to emphasize that. There are more important driving forces in a practice. But if you don't have the financial metrics in place, that is an understood. This doesn't mean the doctor needs to have an MBA in accounting or in finance, but certainly that information needs to be there on a weekly and monthly and quarterly and annual basis for the doctor to be able to review and understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not just that, having the team in place to be able to help him look for, tax strategies and planning and,
Yeah.
being able to not only just on the day-to-day operations and stuff, but be able to, plan in the future to help execute his mission and his vision for his practice.
Yes.
So,
Yes. He brought up some fascinating tips in that podcast. I would urge anybody listening to this to go back and watch that. This is the podcast with Morgan Heyman of Eisner Amper. That's one that is worth a re-listen to, because everybody's ears perked up on some of the pointers he was giving about things that you can do in tax strategies that are extremely important. And there are tax changes going on all the time.
mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, most practices, most doctors, and this is true, I think, of business owners, their interaction with their CPAs is once a year.
Right.
And a firm like what I liked about Morgan and his firm was the proactive approach, the partnership approach with his doctors in terms of managing their finance, forecasting, predicting, and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It should be at least quarterly or twice a year, biannually, to be able to meet with your representative and make sure that you're on track.
Yeah, exactly. Also, these functions and these hats. We break down the owner. The doctor is usually stated as the doctor, and the assumption is that he or she is the owner as well, and often they are. But they're distinct and different hats. This function of understanding fundamental financial status and what is happening and how to strategize and so forth going forward and save money and generate more money.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hat that is part of the owner's duties. It's a separate hat. Doesn't take a lot of time. The doctor is not a practice manager, and they shouldn't be. But as an owner, they have very, very important functions, one of which is the financial viability and financial survival and financial growth of the practice. In fact, it's a CEO hat, really. The CEO of a company, CEOs in large companies, Sarah, they live and die based upon their profitability. What's their share value?
100%.
So, great podcast with Morgan Heyman. Really enjoyed that one. What's your next fave? What's
Well, of course, my favorite topic is leadership in a practice, right?
Yeah.
So we had the opportunity to speak with Dr. Patrick Lillis on leadership specifically. And one of his quotes that I am just going to throw out there, he had several, but being a great clinician is important, but being a great leader is equally crucial to a thriving practice. And that is so important. So important. The staff, they get out of bed in the morning, they get ready for work, they drive to work, if they're lucky, they get a Starbucks on the way, and then they show up really early to take care of patients, right? But without a clear vision and good communication about what that vision is, I feel like a lot of the clients that I have come across, they don't know, what's the why? Why are we doing this, right? And I think one of the characteristics that I've always found super important is to have a clear mission, vision, what the company values are, how does every role in the practice what value do they bring to that? And yeah, he touched a lot on that, and I thought that was a really good, insightful conversation. So, what
Yeah.
were your thoughts?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think Patrick Lillis is an extremely bright individual. Patrick has a very successful general, but really multidiscipline practice in the Kansas City area. He's also an excellent speaker. I actually watched one of his presentations. He does a mini residency he does it actually for specialists and their referring doctors, particularly those doctors who want to start doing a certain type of treatment like implants and how they work together and coordinate efforts. It's a 2-day presentation. He's done many of them all over the country. He's been doing this for years. And we're actually, we're now, Pat and I are now looking at doing a couple of presentations together. But yes, leadership, without it, where do you go? Like, where do you go? You see so many problems, Sarah, nowadays, and you know this well. You see so many problems with staff who are kind of going off in their own direction. They're not quite with it.
Mm-hmm.
And when the moment you have that happening, you have a lack of aligned purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You have vectors going in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And, because it's purpose that moves you forward, presumably. And when you have everybody moving towards the same goals and objectives, then you have a much more powerful, group. And that agreement amongst the employees with the people who own and manage the practice reduces friction immediately. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
You have those fundamental agreements in purpose. So couldn't agree with you more. I mean, this is why a doctor or owner, I should say, which is normally the doctor as well, needs to lay down, here's why we're here. Here's what we're doing. I don't care if you had the same group for 10, 15 years. The reason you do have a group like that is because there is a sense of mutual purpose and objective, So this is very important. And, in practices, when we go into a lot of practices that are disjointed, there isn't alignment, there's friction amongst the staff, production has plateaued out, there's a lack of growth happening. And we always start with an interview with the owner whose morale may be really in bad shape at that point, as well as the staff.
Mm-hmm.
It's more people come to work and they do their jobs. They punch in, they punch out, but they're there to collect a paycheck. And the real mutual bigger picture and that mutual kind of feeling of accomplishing something together isn't there. And we back it up with the owner. We go, okay, let's take a look at why you're doing this. Why are you doing this? And they'll mention some immediate things about objectives and, why did you decide to become a dentist? Why did you decide to become an oral surgeon or whatever, periodontist, whatever it is? And it's you get great stories.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Stories.
Well, and something else that you touched on that sparked a thought here is the importance of having this cohesive team, right? So now that they all have the same goal and mission in mind, whether that's patient care or whatever XYZ for the practice, what happens when there is an immediate crisis in the practice? We have a medical emergency, the imaging system goes down, something is happening. when you have a team that's working together and cohesively, crisis management becomes so much easier. Everybody knows their role, right? If we have a medical emergency, we know the assistant does X, the front office does Y together, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's another part of why leadership is so important, is to make sure that, moving forward, if you knock on wood ever get in a situation like that, it's going to be handled more effectively.
Yes.
And that comes to trust, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, yes. Well, it's all based on agreement.
Yeah.
A great exercise to do with people when they're completely in disagreement, or somebody comes to you and they're just talking about how they'd like to, how much they dislike somebody and don't like working with them and so forth. A great exercise I've done when I've been in various supervisory positions is stop them and go, okay, can you tell me just one thing about that person that you actually like? It's hard at first, and I go, hey, that's very good. And they go, well, I like I like their sneakers. Okay, very good. Wonderful. One more thing, and it becomes sort of funny. It becomes sort of a funny conversation, but it lightens it up completely. And the person realizes that their dislike of the individual is coming from it's their feeling. They can change their feeling. And they can establish communication with the person. Of course, in situations we see where somebody just simply won't communicate, they're going to hang on to their upset as long as they possibly can. Well, that can be a real dysfunction.
Yeah. And
but communication, you can usually work through these things.
Oh, I agree 100%. There's a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing read. I'm sure you've read that one. It is such a good,
yes.
Basic fundamentals for building a good, strong, cohesive team that had a lot of really good tips in it. So yeah, I think finding those common grounds is key, right?
And leaders, and I see this too. I mean, this is such simple stuff, but leaders lay out goals. Leaders, who's going to give the goal for the practice? It's not going to be. Is it going to be your associate? Is it going to be your receptionist? Will it be who is it? It's not going to. I mean, others, they do have goals, individual goals. But one of the screening things, an important screening thing, is to really lay out when you're recruiting somebody or you're screening them, interviewing them, is so they need to have a clear picture of the goals of the practice or what their purposes are. And they need to communicate how what they can do in the practice or what they've been doing can fit into that and how they can participate in that. So you don't find people in a position where they're in a job and they go, yeah, I never really wanted this position. Well, that's, it's a little too late now. So, so this is all, and it's communication. It goes back to communication. A lot of the practice owners we see, for whatever reasons, they don't communicate enough.
Well, and I think also empowering staff members too is also a key way to help lead your team. Cross training, making sure the front knows how to do some of the back office duties and vice versa. When people feel like there's, trust given to them to do those things, that makes for a healthier, happier culture too, I believe.
Yes, no question about it. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, people stay there. There's all kinds of studies on this, Sarah, of why individuals stay in jobs, and it's not because of money.
Yeah.
They stay because they feel empowered. They feel like their self-esteem is going up. Their sense of achievement, personal sense of achievement, growth, personal growth. That is why people will stay in a job. Now that is entirely a product of good leadership. And what you're saying, they're being empowered. The owner, the leader has to take a proactive approach in ensuring. I mean, look, you can say, the staff members, you can say to the employee, okay, jump off that cliff for me. And, you know, they love you to death, but they know that they're going to crash and die at the end of it. But if you're going to do that, you better teach them how to use a parachute, you know, and you can, and I think the misconception about being demanding there's a real misconception about this, because good leaders are demanding. They're demanding. You know, they know what people can do, but they get them to do more of what they can do. And then they get better and they get better and they get better. And people like that. It's predictable. And they know that they're going to grow and they're empowered. And the way you make better, which we've been preaching for gosh knows how long, is you train people.
Right.
You improve their skills. You improve their job descriptions. You do CE. You manage them. You improve their ability to do things. You improve their communication. That's how you have a team that's loyal and stays with you for a really long time, and they won't be poached for an extra $5 an hour.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Leadership. Good topic. Yes. Thank you, Patrick Lillis. Terrific guy. I might add. Well, yeah. What's ahead? What is
ahead? What looking ahead in the future of dentistry? What is ahead, Alan?
Well, I'll tell you what. Listen, you know, I've been in the business of dentistry now for several decades, and seen lots of things change. The change now is on an accelerated curve. The technology is on a huge vertical curve. And what does it due to? It's due to AI and incredible software advancements.
Digital workflow.
We are also we're introducing our own AI systems shortly that will change how patients are taken into a practice and make it far more efficient and simpler for patients. And what's funny is patients love it. They love using the AI. You think, oh no, what about the person who's there? Well, the person is always there and they can always be there too. But we find patients really love it. But I think that digital workflow that is happening now. I mean, we were doing models, Sarah, 15 years ago when doctors started doing digital scanning, and it started to become more popular, and it started to get implemented.
Well, I've got to tell you a Sarah story on this one. So last summer, I had a friend of mine that was short-handed in the office. And so I said, I've got some scrubs. I can come give you a hand, no problem. So I jumped in chairside after about close to 20 years. And he said, okay, we're gonna do a crown prep on number 3. I'm all excited about this. I haven't done a crown prep in forever. And so I'm starting to go through all the operatory cabinets, looking for alginate, looking for bowls and mixing, and then in comes this machine. And I'd heard about these scanners. I've heard about them all over, but I've never actually seen one in use before. Wow. And it was so amazing. I mean, it was just like, prep the tooth, take a couple of pictures, bam, off to the lab it goes. Done. No mess, no goop, nothing, no temper. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah. Highly recommend.
Yeah, I can believe it. That's a great example. Well, this was I think 12, at least 12, maybe 13 years, about 12 years ago. Client who was he was a very early adopter, a periodontist, and extremely successful one. He was doing CE events for his referring doctors and showing them how their profitability per hour would double and triple by his doing digital scans on the patient for the prosthetic. Instead of having to have a couple of visits to see the general dentist who is referring to him for an implant in this case, they would get the crown, the prosthetic from the lab and simply screw it in. It was usually perfect. And they were spending 15, 20 minutes instead of an hour plus at chairside.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So you take a look at, and they were getting the same amount of money. They were getting the same fee for the prosthetic as they were before, spending an hour doing it. And it goes without saying, he was probably one of the most successful perios in the country. But
yeah, well, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. No, digital workflow. It's remarkable.
Well, I was just going to point out to that same story. I had, as an endo manager, we always had blocked the last hour of a day for post-ops and whatnot, but that's an hour of production, right? And so we started using this machine called the Gentle Wave by Saw Endo. And
yes, I know.
We had such great results using this machine that I just started canceling all my post-ops because the results were so great after treatment. We'd never had post-op pain anymore. So I started putting another production in there every day. So
yeah.
Great.
Well, again, take a look at, that's what we feel AI is going to do. We know that's what our AI application is going to do. But that's what good use of this does. You increase the doctors, that same endo, Sarah, can probably get another endo case in that day instead of having to do unnecessary tasks. Completely understand. Yeah, I think this is where it's going. I think this is the future, and I'm very excited about it. And I look forward to, we're searching constantly for new guests talking about different topics from the the lighter side. Jeffrey Gurian, a dentist and a well-known comedian. We had him on as our last podcast. He was a great episode. He was amazing. And, his efforts in terms of, just reminding doctors of the, how they can be less stressed and the things that he discusses and, the whole lighter side of things, mental awareness, and how they can get so much more meaning out of what they're doing was just remarkable. But from that to the clinical, we're trying to cover the whole gamut and really bring unique insights to the marketplace and to the dentists that we that are out there. So there'll be a great deal more. We've got a lot of negative things come up. All the problems, all the HR problems, economics, and it's getting patients to fund treatment. Yeah. There are good workable solutions for all of those things. We've proven it over and over again. And we love to help this market. We're immersed in it. It's part of our DNA. And we'd love to help you as a listener. Just reach out to us and also listen to our podcast, share it with others. And we look forward to hearing from you for a good deal into the future. So, Sarah?
Yeah, that was great, Alan. Wonderful conversation with you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights from our past guests. And just look forward to doing the next show with you.
You got it, Sarah. Same here. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Alan. Have a great day.